motives, no recruiting, nothing to sell you, no political or board affiliation. We're not trying to get you to join our team or use our mortgage company or use title with it. Like, we're not here for anything but for you guys to be served and for you guys to meet with our preferred partners. So everyone, really quick show of hands. We have about 80 advertising partners. Our preferred partners are real producers, and they're all referred by top 500 agents. So what that means is they're super legit. So if you meet someone in this room that doesn't sell real estate, they're not here by accident. They didn't just bring bagels or donuts or coffee. They support this platform long term. They're vetted, they're referred and vouched for by other baller agents, and that's really what matters. So can we give a quick round of applause to the 80 advertising partners? A few of them stepped up extra big to make this happen here at Enzian, and I'm going to give each of them just a minute to tell you who they are, what they do. It's really not long enough for them to explain everything, but the sponsors will at least tell you who they are, what they do, and you can connect with them all after. Can you all do me one favor, though, if you learned anything today? Could you guys make sure to show some love to the sponsors, connect with one or two of them, or post them or something? If you can, say, oh, yeah? Sweet. All right, I'm going to hold you guys to it. We have you on video. So, I'm joking. So without further ado, one of y'all come on down. I'll give you guys the mics. All right, so here's how this works, so don't explain it 10 times. Your microphone is on when you see that it looks on, but when it's red, it's muted. So you have to hit this left button before you talk. So that's muted. That's muted. And that's also muted. Well, that's not muted. So if you hit that left button one time, let's give it up for Home First Lending. And we'll all just run through all of them.
Good morning. Good morning. Oh, okay. I am on. Good morning. Good to see everybody. My name's Jocelyn. Super excited to be here. I am with Home First Lending. I'm a loan officer here with our team. I have had the pleasure of working with a lot of familiar faces in the room, so I'm sure a lot of you do know who Home First Lending is. And if you don't know who we are your local hometown lender. I know that right now the market is tough, right? And that's why we're here to learn and grow and learn from the best and how we can be successful in this tough time. Interest rates are high. They're not looking pretty. Buyers and sellers are hesitant. Affordability is hard. So what we are here is to talk about really the partnerships that you make in a time like this is really the most important part of how you're going to be successful, right? And so if you have a partner that is maybe inexperienced, then how are we going to get through the tough times? However, Home First Lending is winning, even though this market is so hard. And how we're winning is because we're getting creative. We've got the products and the resources to help your clients get approved when they've been told no. We're getting them to the closing table when other people are denying. And that's how we're successful right now in this really tough market. So it is about partnering with the right people, especially times like this. And that's what we're here for. We want to get creative with you. So if you're on the buying side or the selling side, we do have the resources to get that house sold or to get your client approved and closed. Come talk with us. There's a few of us here from Home First Lending in the house. We would love to introduce ourselves. If we haven't worked with you, come say hello. Let's get creative. Let's find a way that we can win together, because that's what it's about, winning together.
All right.
So,
let's give it up for Home First Lending. Monica.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Good morning. I'm bringing the ray of sunshine. My name is Monica with Assured Partners, and I'm bringing that ray because I do insurance. And we know here in Florida, insurance is amazing, right? Just kidding. I'm just going to come with a little nugget for you guys. Assured Partners, just really quick. We represent over 25 insurance companies. My goal is to get you guys to the closing table. And my little nugget for you guys is that flood insurance, they're rezoning. FEMA is rezoning like crazy. I just spoke to a lender the other day. Literally in the middle of his transaction, the property was rezoned into a flood zone. So you guys need to contact me if you have any questions about flood zoning, because it is happening at a rapid rate. And we know because of Hurricane Ian that really made a big impact here in Florida. So give me a call and let me know if I can help you guys. Thank you.
All right.
Good morning, everybody.
And y'all can keep on coming down. Come on down.
All right.
Just come on down and join them.
My name is Louis Rosario. I'm with the home team powered by Moving Mortgage. Just want to let you guys know, we are a lender, and I'm a veteran. So I specialize in VA loans. So I just want to let you guys know, I'm a Marine Corps veteran, Air Force veteran, and did 21 years in the NYPD as a sergeant of police. So we are very, very detailed. A lot of us have experience with all different types of loans. I'm the VA specialist, so if you guys have anyone out there, VA rates are kind of better. But just talk to one of my guys or one of my girls on our team, Home Team Mortgage. Home Team, powered by Movement Mortgage. Thank you.
All right, let's keep this going. And y'all, make sure you speak in the mic because they might hear you, but the people on Zoom can't if you're not close enough. Left button till it turns green. You can switch with Steve.
Thank you. All right, let's see if this works. Hello? Okay, that works. Hi, everyone. I'm Olivia Blanco, and for those who know me as Olivia Blackburn, I just recently changed my name, so thank you. I'm with Title Genius, and it's no secret that we are approaching a potentially slower fourth quarter. So with that being said, you want to make sure that you have a title partner that can support you and provide you strategies and add to your business as we continue to pivot. I would love to help you with marketing strategies or anything that you need beyond the closing table and before the closing table. I'm here for you. Follow us on Instagram at Title Genius by BidClose, and we would love to partner with you. Thank you.
All right. Steve Bell, the money man.
Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Steve Bell. I'm a partner with Harding Bell International. We are a CPA firm. I'm super excited to hear this panel today because they're all phenomenal. And the reason I am is because we have represented thousands of short-term rental owners over the years as a CPA firm, domestic and foreign investors, as well as real estate agents and other investors that work with short-term rentals. So I'm super excited to be here and hear that. Also, so if just as a call of action, if you guys want to know a little bit more about our services and how we help realtors, entrepreneurs, happy to talk with you. But thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Steve rocks. Hey y'all, I am Shay Walker with Shay Walker Photo. I am a branding photographer, which means you come to me for quality and authentic photos of yourself, for your brand, marketing, anywhere where you could show it visually in positive ways. My branding photo shoot is called the Vibe Session, which means it's fun, it doesn't feel like a photo shoot, and you actually know how to use and like the images afterwards. I also own a branding studio called The Vibe Creative, where I have my holiday sessions coming up as well for your content. And you can learn all about that, my studio, myself, on my Instagram at Shay Walker Photo, SHAY Walker Photo. And my studio is The Vibe Creative on Instagram as well. And I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you.
Hey y'all, I'm Tammy Powers. Hey Lisa, I'm Tammy Powers with Waterstone Mortgage, and we are your local lender. We are located here in Winter Park, Florida. We lend nationwide. And are you all excited about what you're going to hear today? Come on, yes. Well, we're excited too. We've been here with Aaron since the beginning, and we're proud to support all of you. There are a lot of friendly faces here. Those that I don't know, love to get to know you. And we have another Waterstone rock star in the back. And Kevin Murphy is here with us. And today you're going to learn a lot of interesting things. You're going to learn things that you're going to be fired up about, but then you're going to say, what do I do? How do I finance it? Well, we have means to do it. The new debt service loans are out there for your investors, and now it's only 75% debt ratio. So you only have to look at what's their income. We don't care. All we care about is that the rent payment on this new property that they're purchasing is going to be able to cash flow by at least just 75%, not 1-to-1 anymore. So that's exciting. We're excited. New products, new ideas. So get pumped up.
All right. It's Waterstone Mortgage, our newest sponsor with unique title.
So we can touch. Thank you. So again, we have a full bilingual staff at Unique Title. We also have over 50 years of combined experience in real estate. So we promise you that your transaction is going to close smooth and correctly. We also have an amazing marketing team that loves co-branding events for you. We can help you with everything from open houses, brokers open, housewarming, anything you want to do, we can make it happen. We have an amazing tool on our social media. If you want to follow us and connect with us at Unique Title, We have an app that you can take it on the go. You can do all your estimates there for your clients. We can help you with farming as well. So anything that you need, we are there for you.
All right.
We can help you with classes. We love doing classes for continuing education. So just reach out, and thank you so much for the opportunity of being here.
All right, that's unique title, UNIK. And Heather, hurry, bring us
Okay,
home.
come on now. This is Masterclass on a Thursday. Everybody get up. Get up, get up, get up, get up, get up. You guys are the panel over there being so patient. So while I'm talking, I just thought we'd get a little bit of like, right? Whoo! All right. Heather Hurry, Pillar to Post, the Jeff Mackey team. Love you guys, every single one of you. See a lot of familiar faces. The reason why I wanted to get you to get up is because you're the most important person in the room, right? That's what we're here for. We're here to learn. And I just want to thank all of you guys for coming. So many of you have supported Pillar to Post, the Jeff Mackey team, over the years. Just by a show of hands, who is familiar with Pillar to Post? Awesome. Oh my gosh, we should definitely take a picture of that. I feel like super blessed with seeing all those hands. So I just wanted to remind you guys, two new products. And thank you for standing, because, you know, if you want to sit now, you can't. Yeah, okay. I just thought we'd get the energy going. Two quick things. We're offering new annual home maintenance inspections. This is going to be huge. Definitely reach out to me if you're interested. And we're going to start including a free property permit building report or home report. So just a couple of quick things to kind of get your minds clicking. If you need more information, I'll be towards the back of the room. But more than anything, thank you, Aaron, for a great Orpies. Let's give Aaron a hand for that if you were there. And let's enjoy this masterclass. I see some familiar faces too. Enjoy.
All right. And I got to give a shout out to a couple people that didn't make it here. So real quick, on the count of three, we're going to do a 1, 2, 3 clap. First is the guy that sent the coffee all the way from Claremont. He couldn't make it today. He's probably out photographing houses. But could we give a 1, 2, 3 clap for DeVore Design? They do photography and staging. 1, 2, 3. We got another chance to do the 1, 2, 3 clap, so don't worry. The next one, Brandon Blake. He usually comes out to Masterclass once a month, but he came out last week for the Orpies. Wonder why. No, I'm kidding. But he comes from Texas. His team, the staging company, is one of the biggest staging companies in the country. Let's give them a 1, 2, 3. And then last but certainly not least, we got one of our other newest sponsors with Miracle Movers. I don't know where Chance is, but on the count of three, let's give him a 1, 2, 3 clap. 1, 2, 3. Ah, that works. We'll give him 2 claps. I think that's everybody. If I skip somebody, it's your fault for not coming. So let's get this thing started. Are you guys ready to roll? All right, let's bring the panelists up. Let's start with Aidan. Aidan's a short-term rental investor and co-founder of Blue Gems. He left corporate America at 27 as an 8-figure real estate portfolio at the age of 28. Can you all say that's hot? I think it's pretty cool. He now focuses his time on building the Blue Gems brand, acquiring more short-term rentals, and educating other investors along the way. Let's give it up for Aidan Groll. Come on down, grab a seat, man. Brandt. Brandt began his real estate journey by flipping houses in 2015 while working as an audio engineer in Nashville, Tennessee. After a brief stint in corporate tech sales, he made a strong entry into Orlando's vacation real estate market. I can't read today. His determination and relentless pursuit of excellence, combined with his efficiency, and I'll say he's just really detail-oriented, helped him land a spot in the top 100 real estate agents in all of Greater Orlando last year. He has sold over $40 million in short-term rental properties just in the last 2 years, about $30 million last year. And so he's quickly becoming one of the top resort and second home specialists in the area. Let's give it up for Brandt Alexander. He's also the tallest guy on the panel, so make sure you take a small seat. No, I'm kidding. Michelle started her working career in finance, working for large corporations, doing budgeted financial statements and cost management. She got into real estate in 2018 and invested in her first multifamily property and started getting into long-term rentals for the first time. As the real estate career grew, she expanded every year or two with a new property to house hack or do value adds and things like that, and she continued to increase the profitability. In under 2 years, or just over 2 years ago, she left the world of real estate sales to focus primarily on short-term rental property management. Her company, Peak Paradise Vacation Management, grew to 40 units in just under 2 years without any advertising or anything like that. They've maintained a Superhost rating, and they manage properties all the way from Daytona Beach to Disney. That's her primary focus, all the way out to Clearwater. Let's give it up for Michelle Elsaid. JB is from New Orleans, and he he was raised in several states across the country. He went to college on a football scholarship and went on to pursue a poker career and played professionally for over a decade before finding his true calling in real estate. He and his wife moved from Las Vegas to Orlando to double down and focus only on short-term rentals. His strong ability to negotiate and building relationships has led his company, Blue Gems, to over 42 units in 2 years. He hosts a local Orlando meetup for short-term rental and a short-term rental podcast, and recently launched a coaching program to help new investors go from 0 to 1. Let's give it up for JB Bullock. Hold on, Riley. I got to find where I put yours. I thought it was right here. I might have screwed this up. Well, I'll tell you about Riley. Hold on 1 second, y'all. All right, I don't know where you sent it to me. Can you send it back? You want to tell them? You want to tell them who you are? Riley's awesome. His team is one of the largest short-term vacation or short-term rental management companies in the Cocoa Beach area. Riley, why don't you just tell them what I should have said? Sorry, I screwed that up. We'll get it eventually. Go ahead. Tell them who you are.
Hey, is it working? All right, cool. So I manage vacation rentals in the Space Coast, Brevard Canyon area. So Melbourne, Cocoa Beach, Cape Canaveral, Merritt Island. Right now, we have been in business for about 2 years. We've quickly grown. We're at about 120 in Brevard County, and we're expanding into the Savannah market that we added 15 units.
I found you.
So,
he has over 150 doors valued at $25 million. And one thing he probably didn't tell you is him and his team purchased an 8-plex in Cocoa Beach and completely converted the entire thing into basically a boutique hotel. I've stayed there like 5 times. It's awesome. And they recently did some value adds, added a pool, and a bunch of other badass stuff. Is that a fair way of describing it?
That is great. So Aaron can count, and it is dog friendly. So if you guys want to come over for the weekend, bring the pups, more than welcome.
Even if they're big and not that well behaved. No, I'm kidding. Let's give a giant round of applause for Riley and all the panelists. All right, so here's the deal. We've got an interesting panel today. We're going to kind of go through the flow because we got investors, agents, managers, kind of everything here. And we also have another agent who I will probably refer to because I know Suzanne's right here, and she sells tens and tens and tens of millions, specializing in short-term rental as well. So I may let her jump in with Brandt. But anyway, I'm going to start with you, Brandt, because you're the agent on the panel. Can we talk a little bit about why agents should be fired up about short-term rental opportunity in general, why they should be fired up here in Central Florida in particular, and what it could be doing for their business? Let's set some context like that.
Absolutely. So thank you all for coming. And when he did the announcement earlier, it didn't seem like everyone was all that excited to be here. So I want to give you some information. I'm going to give you some information on why short-term rentals could change your life.
Hey, Brandt, hold that real close to your mouth. I promise.
Over the last 2 years, I've sold $40 million in real estate, and I'm going to tell you how. Okay, it's almost $1 million in gross commission, just for you out there doing the numbers. So my team just put together 2 contracts in total over the last couple of days worth $25 million. Now, just one of those properties, this is a short-term rental, okay, had a gross revenue of $1.7 million. Do I have your attention? Okay. So the short-term rental space is a very lucrative opportunity. Now, how many of you sold multiple primary homes to the same person the same month in the last, let's say, year or so? So how many of you have sold multiple primary residences to the same person in the same month? Raise your hand. There's not a single hand raised right now. Now, if you were to ask an agent who specializes in short-term rentals, if you've sold multiple properties to the same person in the same month, every single one of them would raise their hand. Now, just let that sink in for a second. So that tells you that the opportunity to be able to sell multiple properties to the same person in the same month is huge, right? So that means you can do multiple transactions, you can do a lot more deals, you can make a lot more money.
So Brandt, tell me about your best client. Like, how often are they buying? How big are they buying? Give them a couple numbers real quick.
Say that one more time.
How often are some of your best investors buying, and are they even here? Do they come visit? Do you have to show houses?
That's a great point. So most of our clients in the short-term rental space are remote, right? So we don't actually even have to show them properties most of the time. They're running they're buying the properties based off of the cash flow analysis for the most part. Then they'll go through the process of due diligence. That's when they'll go into the properties. So you're saving a significant amount of time, not having to run around, show a ton of properties, and then you also get the benefit of selling multiple properties to them as well. As far as how often they're buying, it's usually as fast as they can save up a down payment or get the money from another source, right? So if their interest is cash flow, the opportunity is tremendous.
Anything else about that you wanted to share? You had a whole he had a whole pitch deck that he showed me, so I want to make sure that the context side of it. So that you don't have to show a lot of houses in person.
Right.
People are buying multiple properties, and they're buying on average what size transaction?
It depends. So they can vary dramatically.
What's your average transaction for a short-term rental?
Usually somewhere around 700,000 or so. My team's putting together just over $1 million per transaction.
Okay, so pretty high average as well, because Orlando's average is in the fours.
Yes,
correct?
Exactly.
So what we got out of that was you could sell bigger amounts more often, faster, without driving and opening doors. Is that a fair way of summarizing?
Yes, absolutely.
Michelle, you were an agent for a really long time, so I'm going to let you add any other things that people need to be aware of why this is important stuff for them to understand. If the left button is green, you're good to go.
Okay, so I do have some stuff to add, but it's kind of along the same lines of what I was or what he just said. I do think the short-term rental industry, as far as sales, is like an untapped market, and the agents that know it are just killing it. Because you're not going to be at brunch on Sunday and get a showing that someone needs to like rush off and go see a house. You have to wait for a checkout. It's going to be planned. You're going to pick the time when you're going to go. So it takes all of that like hustle and bustle out of your day. And they're investors. It's a little bit different than like somebody's looking for like a primary home where they need a specific layout. Generally, it's going to be like they need a certain amount of bedrooms, they need a pool, they're going to want it to look nice, they may or may not want a resort, but their criteria is a little bit smaller. And to be honest, I work primarily in the Disney area. A lot of the houses are the same. So you're going to narrow it down probably to a couple different resorts, pick the best options, and then it's just that easy. Sometimes you don't even show the house and they buy it just off the photos, and the clients really are not usually there. Most of my clients I've never met. They're usually overseas, out of state, in Canada, and they're usually a little bit more laid back too, because they're there for the numbers, they're there for the return, and they just want
Canadian,
a good property.
Right? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Suzanne, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I'd say for our clients, they're located all over the country, and there are also a lot of local people. So just like you said, we're just basically showing, we have videos for all of our listings. So that's really helpful because a lot of people don't like to buy houses sight unseen, even if they're an investor. They still want to kind of touch it, you know. I actually have a question though. How do you guys figure out, obviously in Orlando, we have 100 million people visiting every year, and there's tons of options, and there's more short-term rentals being built. How do you guys kind of determine what's best for your client and navigate that?
Let's go right into it. Let's start with Aidan and JB. How do you answer the question? Then we'll kind of switch between the different markets because everyone specializes in different areas.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the agent perspective, but I would talk from the buyer side, right? So we're looking at supply. Like, where's the least amount of supply in Disney? So we're buying 7, 8 bedroom, 9 bedroom homes because the supply goes down dramatically. So if you want to maximize your return, go where there's less product, right? So if you want to compete with less people and offer a different product, we just buy larger homes. So JB and I predominantly are buying 6, 7, 8 bedroom, 9 bedroom homes when it comes to Orlando.
What about other markets? JB, can you give us some perspective on the areas that aren't Orlando?
Yeah, I was going to add one more thing to here in Orlando, right? One thing that we like is there's so many resort communities out here, but we only focus on the top 5, right? So Windsor Island, Champions Gate, Story Lake, Windsor at Westside. And why this really matters is because there's 30% of the travelers that are coming out to Disney to travel are coming internationally, right? So they're from Brazil, they're from London, from Canada, and they generally book through tour operators. So tour operators are only going to share some of the best resort communities if you're not in that resort community, you're going to struggle pretty significantly. So focus on those top 5 resort communities. And then in terms of other markets, the beach markets, most of them, you could pretty much have success in almost any beach market here in Florida, as long as you're offering a different product. Just being competitive, you have to have a pool. We jokingly say it all the time that having a pool is as important as Wi-Fi, and everyone laughs, but it's a true statistic. So it's super important. Think about it. If someone's coming from Cincinnati, they never get to, experience a pool. They will pay a premium price for a pool, and that's what they expect. So.
Love it. Can you hand that mic to Riley? Because he definitely is the next person I should chime in on that. He's in Cocoa Beach and just added a pool. What can you say about that and the question in general?
Yeah, I mean, just to be honest, there has been a so when I added my pool, I would say the occupancy increased by about 15 to 20%. Made a huge difference. The ADR, so like the average daily rate, went up by about 5 to 10%. So it didn't really affect the price we were renting for, but more so the occupancy that we're bringing in. To be honest, the beach market, it's very oversaturated in the 1 and 2 bedrooms. I'm sure that they're kind of hinting at that as well. So, that the saying that, hey, the larger the property, the more demand you're going to have because there's lots of competitions out there. There's no doubt. I personally really look at it from a purely investor mindset. So every single one of my properties, whenever we're working with an investor, if I'm working with an agent, I underwrite the deal for them so they can see every single expense that would go into it. We factor in utilities, we factor in maintenance, we factor in even things like pest control, lawn service, everything that goes into it. And we're able to give it based off of 3 very competitive comps in the market. I pay for a lot of data so we can say, hey, this property is going to make, I can guarantee you this amount. And I always try to play it on the safe side. Here's all your expenses. This is what your cap rate's going to be. This is what your cash flow is going to be. This is your cash on cash return. So I look at it and I really make it easy for you guys. So, and I'd love to be able to send. So if someone's looking at the beach market, they're looking for a rental, I can say, this is exactly how much you're going to make guaranteed. Like I can guarantee that number.
Where do you go to get data? And I'm going to ask the whole group, where do you trust? Who do you not trust? How do you do your comps?
Okay, so I'm going to tell you what not to do first, is go on to Airbnb and look and say, oh, this place is renting for, look at this place, it's $1,000 a night. And the point I always make by that is the only prices you see on Airbnb are the ones that aren't rented, right? So that is not a comp. It's like going in and saying, oh, that house is selling for $1.4 million. My house is worth $1.4 million. No, it's worth $900,000 for the neighbor that sold last week. So it's very much so that way. So for data, there's multiple sites you can use. Raboo is the best one for you guys because it's completely free. I do have Tableau, AirDNA. My partner, sorry, I guess I wasn't speaking into it. My apologies. My partner, he works for this company called Vintory. He gets a lot of data that no other companies have. He has a direct relationship with Airbnb, so we're actually seeing what people are booking on for Airbnb so that we're able to like really give good comps. So, but I mean, it's very similar to like kind of how you guys underwrite deals. We look at competitive markets or competitive properties, see what their occupancies are, and say, how do we improve it?
Let me switch sides. Aidan, what do you use? How do you do?
Yeah,
Let's
so
go down the row and get everybody.
Going in order, right? So number 1 for me is going to be internal data. We love looking at our own numbers, right? So one of the reasons why we're super confident in Disney is because we have a lot of scale here. We have over 15 properties. So we know exactly how much a 6-bedroom home in Champions Gate will do, right? So that's the first thing, internal data. The second thing would be other operators, right? So if I hit up Michelle and I said, hey, Michelle, what can you expect the property in Clearwater to do? We haven't entered that market yet. And then we move into AirDNA, Price Labs, Data Raboo. We try not to rely too much on third-party data because, again, we don't know how accurate it is because we're not able to actually tie into the true OTA and figure out, if those are real numbers or not.
Love it. Sorry, I forgot. I was just going to go down the whole. And Brandt, you have a mic in your hand, so you're not really doing the comp. Are you doing the comps?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk.
Okay.
And what do you do?
So I'll mention one point. So lenders typically will use AirDNA if you're going to do something called like a DSCR loan. This is very common in the short-term rental and investment space, debt service coverage ratio loan. And this particular type of loan, usually if they're using short-term rental data, they're going to use it from AirDNA. So that's just an important point to know. I use all of the same data points that these guys do, Rabu, AirDNA, Price Labs, whatever it is. And there's, just kind of looking through comparable properties as well. And using and working with property managers like these guys to be able to determine that information.
Love it. Michelle, I'd love for you to answer it, but also to talk about agents, how they should best work with you guys. Yeah, and make sure you talk right into it so they can hear you.
Okay, so for comping rental data, I use AirDNA as well. And just for you guys to know like how AirDNA actually works, you can literally like zoom into an area. Like if you're going to focus on Windsor Island, you can go zoom into Windsor Island, find all the listings in Windsor Island, and it literally tells you how much money that listing's bringing in. So even if like I don't have a property in Windsor Island, which I do, I manage like 7 in there, the data is available, so you can comp it. And it's the same thing, like the same way you guys comp sales. You just take an average of 3. AirDNA is expensive. It's like a $2,000 membership, so not everyone's going to want to do that. So that's why you can use resources like us as property managers to call on us for help, and that's what I go over with your clients when they call. There's also cheaper options like strinsights.com. It's like a monthly thing, and it literally tells you how much a 3-bedroom is going to bring in, a 5-bedroom is going to bring in, if your 3-bedroom sleeps 6 versus if it sleeps 10. So all that data is available out there, and we can actually pull. It's all public. And in regards, sometimes what I tell people is like, if you just want a quick ballpark, I do believe in Airbnb, but you need to make sure it's an established listing. Because if it's a brand new listing and it's $1,000 a night and they have 0 reviews, they probably didn't get $1,000 a night. But if they have 200 reviews or 50 reviews, you can take an average of like 4 days every other month to grab seasonality and average out to multiply it by like the average occupancy to get like a ballpark. So you can do that too if you need like a quick number. But those would be like the technical way and like a quick way to get those numbers.
Let me rephrase this question. How should agents be prepping their clients to hand them over to someone that specializes in short-term rentals?
Yeah, so I've noticed a huge difference in the realtors who are closing deals with their clients interested in short-term rentals and the ones who aren't. And part of it's kind of just like getting comfortable, like the same way it's uncomfortable to hire a TC and kind of hand people off and you're not sure if you like them yet. It's kind of hard versus like the realtors who have like either know me very well or their clients have worked with me for a while. It's very easy for them to say, Michelle's the best. She's the only one I know who gets consistent numbers. Like, you need to call Michelle. So obviously when I get on the phone with those clients, it's a very different call than a different Passover, which I'll go over. But the biggest difference that I notice is, so those realtors, they generally put me in touch with the client or the client calls me. We usually talk for like 45 minutes to an hour about like all their concerns, all their intentions, all their worries, stuff they read on the internet. There's a bunch of stuff on the internet about short-term rentals. And even if they don't have a lot of questions or not savvy in investing at all, usually by the end of the call, they do have a ton of questions and we go over all of them. And the difference is by the end of that call, we've gone over everything, so I feel super connected to them. But the difference in the follow-up is afterwards, because when the client has questions about the properties they saw with you, or they're stuck in between 2, or there's an update on closing, the client's like, hey, Michelle, this is the update. Versus what I noticed with other realtors is the realtor setting up a meeting. There's going to be 3 of us on the call. A third of the call is like kind of going over the realtor's curiosities, and that's not a bad thing, but we're not getting to your client's questions. There's not enough space for your client's questions. So there needs to be like, you just need to make space for that direct relationship, because if I'm filtering all of my information through the realtor instead of direct to client, they don't have their bases covered because they know you're going to have the sale, but they don't know who's going to be helping them afterwards and if they like, trust, and know me. So that's the biggest thing I would say, because also when we get off the call, we tend to need a follow-up call and a follow-up call, and we lose momentum. And it's not that I don't want it to be like 3 calls or anything like that, but if we can do it in one, let's do it, and there's going to be a lot more momentum.
Love it. Brandt, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah. So there's this book I read recently called Who Not How. And the premise of the book is that whenever you are in a position where you're outside your area of expertise, that you want to find people that can help basically establish synergy, right? That can take over that task and do it better than you can, so that you can spend your time doing the things that you can be best at, right? And so as you're learning as an agent to get into this space, the last thing you need to be focused on is cash flow analysis, right? You need to learn the basic terminology. As a matter of fact, I was going to bring this up. If you Google short-term rental terminology, I would actually start there. That'd be the first place I would start, is learn the terms. You need to know average nightly rate, occupancy, all of that. But having that synergy with your property managers is going to do a couple of things for you. One of them is it's going to further establish trust. When you have a team and you have experts on that team that edify you, right, make you look like a rock star, and you can do the same for them, that builds trust. And relationships are built entirely on trust, right? And that's the most important thing. So your clients will love you, and the people responsible for helping them get those results are going to be the property managers, assuming they're not self-managing. So that takes a lot of risk off of your shoulders to have that conversation of how well is this property going to perform. Whatever, you can say, hey, I'm gonna pass this off to your property manager. I'm going to introduce you to them. They're absolutely amazing. You've got to talk with them, and they're going to help you out. So that's how I would recommend getting started in that space, and that's how it can benefit you as an agent.
Love it. Let's go down the line and switch things up a little bit. I want to hear from each of you about your markets that you specialize in, and what are the most important things for people to know about that market. Like Brandt, you told me there's specific resort communities that you sell or don't sell. Riley, you know what works in Cocoa Beach and doesn't. JB and Aidan, you probably have an overview of a bunch of different areas. Michelle, you probably have around I-4 and then some. So could we just maybe go down the line and get a quick breakdown? Hey, this market, these are some of the things that we know are needed, not needed, kind of red flags, green flags type of things. Aidan, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so I'll have the same answers as JB, but JB, I'll just focus on the Scottsdale market. So in Scottsdale, we offered a very unique product, right? We cater specifically to bachelorette parties. So we had a property that actually was doing terrible. The seller was a flipper. He wanted to get out of it. And so we said, hey, this property won't perform as is. It needed a pool. So we actually had to install a pool and go through the construction process, similar to Aaron. And then what happened was we looked at the data, and the data was saying Scottsdale is a very saturated market, very similar to Disney. And so we had to figure out what would actually work in that market, right? So we studied the data and we figured out that Scottsdale was one of the most visited cities for bachelorette parties, right? Similar to Nashville, Savannah. And so we catered specifically to that avatar, right? Pink dinosaurs in the backyard, neon signs, murals, we went all out, right? And so what happens is our ADR goes from, just under $200 to over $500-600 on the weekends, because we were very specific on who we were marketing to, right? And so I would say that if you're going to enter a market, really do the due diligence on who you're going to be marketing to, who your avatar is, and what's actually working.
I love that. And Brandt, I think that segues straight into what I think I'd love for you to chat about next, which is talk about the Disney avatar. What's needed? What are some of the things that get top dollar? What are you noticing goes along with what he's saying, but specifically in the Disney corridor?
Yeah, so this market, specifically the Disney corridor, is going to be focused entirely on catering towards visitors going to Disney and Universal, period. There really isn't a whole lot other than that, just theme parks, right, specifically for this area. So I'm going to give you the cheat code, the answer to the test, so to speak. This took me hundreds of hours to figure out, and a lot of consulting with a lot of different people. So within the Disney market, we're talking about Osceola County, which is Kissimmee, Polk County, which is Davenport, and South Claremont, which is Lake County. Okay, those areas have communities specifically designed for short-term rentals. So there's something called short-term rental overlay districts, and within those districts, there's master plan developments, usually better known as resort communities. So these resort communities have amenities like lazy rivers, splash pads, concierge service, shuttle service to and from the parks. They have golf course access, all kinds of amenities that are specifically designed for that vacation rental experience, right? And they're going to help your clients maximize their cash flow. If you're outside of those communities, it's very difficult to make the properties perform well. And I'm specifically talking about Orlando again, because every market is totally different. That's a really important point. So within the Disney corridor, you definitely want to have those resort amenities. The kickback you're going to get from your clients.
What are resort amenities? Give us kind of.
Yeah, so like the water parks, the splash pads, concierge service, shuttle service, the golf course access, those types of amenities, right? But these communities are designed for this purpose. They're designed to be short-term rental communities. We're not talking about condo hotels. That's something different. These are homes, right?
So if I'm hearing you right, if you buy in these communities, you don't have to go add all these amenities because they have them. But if you bought somewhere else, you might have to do something cool with your pool or like you'd have to go above and beyond to add amenities that aren't in the neighborhood. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, specifically on the exterior of the property, because that brings up another point too, right? Which is the theming. I'll get to that in just a second here. So when we're talking about these resort communities, they have single-family detached units, they have condos, and they have townhomes. Okay, they're going to have one-bedroom condos all the way up to 17-bedroom mansions. And so basically what Aidan was pointing out earlier is that specifically in this market, you're going to notice that there's a heavy saturation with properties that are 4 bedrooms and under. And as a result, they don't cash flow as well, right? So if you can go above 5 bedrooms and above, those are the good properties that are going to perform the best typically in those resort communities. And you also want to make sure that the property has a private pool. That is extremely important. Private pool.
All right, Michelle, what would you add to that? Because I know you were trying to add something a second ago.
So in the Disney market, the biggest thing, like people are saving up for years to go on those vacations. Like it's a vacation of a lifetime for them to go and for their kids. So you just want to think about how they're going to spend their time. And this is for any market. You want the resorts, you want the pools. People are coming to the Sunshine State for the first time, so they want a pool. It needs to have heating. Even in our mild winters, like you have to have heating or you're going to be really, really empty in the winter months. But the biggest thing is having like a really nice property. It needs to have like a frozen room, a superhero room, like something for everybody to get super excited about. Because you go in those resorts, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of homes. Everyone has a private pool. Everyone has a 5-bedroom or a 6-bedroom. They all have the same resort. Your design needs to be so good that people see one photo of it and they want to click on the rest of the photos to see more. And then when they do see more, they're like, wow, this property has a game room. Wow, this property has a frozen room for my daughter. Those types of things. Because Disney's very, very competitive and everybody is interested in short-term rentals. So it's becoming important now even more to stand out. It used to be that like, you could get leftover furniture from like your family and hand-me-downs and kind of put something together and make a killing, but it's not that way anymore. And everybody's getting into short-term rentals. Everybody's excited. People are spending like $60,000, $90,000 to furnish these properties. So what it takes to compete now is that design. You want a pool and you need a really, really good design.
JB and Riley, do you want to add to that? Because I know you guys have perspectives.
Yeah, I'll share a slightly different perspective just as we enter a new market in general, right? What we look for. So we just really reverse engineer everything. We are playing at an advantage because all of our competition has already showed their hand, right? So we can go in and go to a website like AirDNA or DataRabu and find the top properties in that specific market and find commonalities, right? What are the amenities that are offering? How close to the proximity or the destination, the beach, the theme park, whatever they're there for, right? And understand the demographic of travelers, the avatar, why are they traveling there? And then just, play to the strengths, do slightly better than what your competition is offering. So
love it. Could you pass Riley a mic, let him add to that? He's got some really cool theming, a block off the beach, right across the street from the beach. I mean, not even a block.
Yeah. One thing I quickly learned in the beach market, the worst thing you could do is having a beach theme unit. It's just, there's a million of them out there. It's not attractive anymore. It's just not good. I was talking to Michelle about it earlier. So 80% of people who book on Airbnb are female. So I always say that the unit has to
Wait, say that again. What percentage?
80% of people.
Y'all heard that? 80%?
So, I mean, generally what happens is the wife's booking vacation and she's picking out the units and then she shows it to her husband. He's like, oh yeah, that's good. I like it. So I always say the unit has to be female positive and male neutral. So females have to love it and then guys have to say, yeah, I like it. It's good. The other thing, like my market, it's more about just having a clean, crisp look, not too much. Opposite of, honestly, Disney, where Disney's very themed. Mine, it's more about just having a good, clean vibe, not too much, doesn't feel clutterful, has a perfect amount. I do have one themed unit, and it performs pretty well. Like I had a mural done, and it's very space-oriented, and we have very good results. But at the end of the day, Michelle also kind of touched on it. Is look, your hero photo is everything. That first photo that you see on Airbnb or VRBO, it has to be attractive. It has to catch your eye. It has to be nice. It has to be something that you want, right? Because if it doesn't look nice in the first photo, you're just scrolling, right? So you have to have something that's an eye catcher for sure. But I'm a big believer on how do we differentiate and how do we like get a return. So like the boutique hotel, yeah, I bought a multifamily that was $800,000, and I have 8 units now instead of having one big one. And does that outperform? So trying to find creative ways for our investors to be able to outperform. And then there's a lot more incentives if you have like a multifamily unit rather than single family. There's a lot more tax benefits, et cetera. So, but in terms of decoration, amenities, they've kind of touched on them all. Pools are huge. It's hot as hell. No one wants to be here in August without one.
Let's talk a little bit about how you identify the green flags, the red flags, the things that make this a good investment, because everyone in this room, I'm sure, sees listing descriptions that say this would make a great Airbnb, and it's not even always a legal one. They have no clue if it'd be great. How do you guys, actually, I'll start with someone tell us how you figure out whether something, what the rules and regulations actually are. Brandt would be great to answer that. And then I'd love to hear from each of you. What are the things you look for? What are the green flags? What are the red flags? What tells you it's good? What tells you it's bad? And then I'm going to let TJ ask a question when you're done with that.
Awesome. Yeah. So the first thing I recommend doing is Google short-term rental regulations and then put in the county, right? So that's what I was pointing out before. So Osceola County, Polk County, Lake County, they have very little restrictions on short-term rentals. Your clients will need to get a vacation dwelling license, a business tax receipt, and fill out a tourist development tax application as well. But it's a very straightforward process. Orange County has conditional use permits, but for the most part, they don't allow for short-term rentals. There are a handful of communities, I think they're new development that are coming out, that are just starting to allow for short-term rentals, but traditionally they've been condo-tels. So the surrounding areas, definitely that's where you can go. But just Google short-term rental regulations. You'll be able to find the government websites that'll have that information.
Love it. All right, TJ, let me just let you ask your question. You've been chomping at the bit to ask it. Let's hear it.
First of all, I love this panel, right? So just by a show of hands, though, how many people have sold, how many agents have sold over 3 properties a year in the short-term rental market? Okay, probably 10% maybe, something like that. Well, who wants to make money, right? Does everyone want to make money? This is the way to do it. When I look at this panel right here, 4 of them are buyers, if not facilitators for your buyers, right? You have 2 investors that are up here. If you brought them a deal, you're going to make money. They're in the market deals. And the only thing you need to do is change your language, right? JB, do you care about the color of the kitchen? Do you care if it has a nice granite to it? You only care about the numbers. Numbers are a conversation that you're able to email, send a video to, and they're going to look it over. So I guess my comment is that you just have to change your language. For the 2 property managers up here, the first thing that they said was, you know, the value of your business was $25 million, right? In
that's my real estate
holdings.
portfolio.
Yeah, the real estate holdings. But the way that they make money in property management is having more properties to manage. So as real estate agents, you have a tremendous resource to go to them and bring potential clients, and then you can facilitate a relationship. This is what we've done in the Disney Corridor, and they give you back potential real estate leads. That is your cheapest way to get people to talk to about buying real estate, because they need to grow their inventories, right?
Love it.
And so that's pretty much my comment.
Did you have a question or just a comment?
Well, the question would be is that for Brandt, you know, tell somebody where they begin, right? It's about how do I get into this marketplace?
Yeah, so I would go back to who, not how, right? You have to have a network of fellow agents, right? Property managers, people that can help you and support you in this industry. But here's the thing that it benefits you, how it benefits you, right? The riches are in the niches, right? So if there's 2 things that you remember from this to take away, it's the riches are in the niches and who, not how. That's what's important.
I would say you need to find like a property manager that you trust, because that you need to use them as a resource to get there, because it's kind of the same thing. Like you see agents out there who close a lot of investment deals in general, like long-term rentals, and then short-term rentals are just another animal. And even if I was to like give you, like sometimes people are just like, hey, Michelle, can you comp this? Like, can you comp this? And even if I give you the comps, the foundation and like the rest of the stuff just isn't there for you to get all the way to closing if your client isn't already super familiar in the industry. So you need to find a vendor that you trust that can answer those questions and that you can direct them to it. So I would say, like, for example, that would be me. So you could call me and we could have the same call that I would have with your client, so that you can decide if you like, know, and trust me, if you like how I make decisions, if you like how we handle properties. And then when you get those clients, get them approved, let's find out what price point they want. And then we need to figure out what they need. Like if they're going to use the space for their family, that's going to decide how many bedrooms we need, different things like that. If they intend to use it for Disney, then we're going to stick to Disney. Otherwise, we might have more markets. But then after that, I'm going to close in all the gaps. And then you guys are going to go look in a window. You're going to look for a pool property in their price range that has the bedroom count that they need for their family. And it's going to be a little bit of an easier close. That's what I would say.
Something I would kind of like to touch on that is I always kind of look at it in reverse. I look at for the deal first, because if you find a deal, someone's going to buy it, right? If it's going to make someone money, the money will come. I promise you. Like, and that's how I always preach it, is like, look, I'll buy properties. Like I bought a 70-unit portfolio. I found a great deal. The money came, right? If you have something that's going to produce numbers, it's going to come. So I would like working in reverse. So like what I do for all my agents in Brevard, and if you guys want to get added to my email list, I underwrite every single deal that goes on the MLS in Brevard County. And if it makes money, and if it makes sense for someone to buy it, I blast out to all the agents. And if they have someone who's interested or who has an investor, they can say, hey, look, this is a great deal. Do you have anyone? You say it to friends, you say it to family. You kind of work in reverse, right? Because it's easy to work with someone, but if you can't find them the deal, it doesn't matter, right? So I always try to look for, hey, let's find the property that's going to make sense. And then once I find that property, I promise you, you will find someone that's going to buy it.
Right. Let's talk about how you find it.
So, I mean, for me, I go off of everything that's on the MLS, and I say, hey, I underwrite the deal. I see how much money it's going to make. And then I have a financial formula. They can see every single line item number that says, oh, I'm going to make a 14% cap rate. If you have a property that's going to make a 14% cap rate, someone will buy it tomorrow, cash, no question. And if you bring that to your brokerage, someone will do it. And you know what? You might say, well, hey, well, this is this person's client. Split the commission with them. It's a great deal. I promise you, there's someone out there with cash. If he could get a 14% return or 25% cash on cash return, someone will do it. They'll do it in seconds. And find that property. Don't find the person, find the property. Because if you find the property, there's a lot of people out there looking. And you can post on Bigger Pockets, hey, I have a great deal for a property. Someone will instantly message you about it. If you say, hey, I have a 14%, go to this committee. Hey, I have a property that's going to make tons of money. Do it. Like, and that is the way you should look at it, rather than, hey, let me find the investor. Find the properties, and people will come.
Love it.
Something to add to that.
Go ahead.
Sometimes you want to ask your client too what their specific goals are, because some people are super savvy and they know exactly what they want, and they're going to talk the numbers and they're going to want to go over P&Ls with you. But actually, you'd be surprised. There's a lot of people out there. They just want to have a house that's going to pay for itself, and they just want to go on vacation. So there's different types of personalities out there. Like if you have a super great numbers deal, you're going to want to bring it to that like aggressive, savvy client. But a lot of people are just looking for like a pretty mediocre return, to be honest, when you ask them about what their goals are. And if you know that about them, you're going to be a little bit different in your approach to them. And I have one client who he has 2 properties. And when he bought his first property, we were looking at the numbers and he's like, hey, like I kind of want to make like 5% more. And I was like, well, to be honest, this is kind of the standard return for the area. And it's in Disney World. And I was like, if you want to get a higher return, I think we should look in this area outside of the resorts, because I have one that's doing it. It's a lower price point. It's not fancy. It's not shiny. And so we went over it and I compared it to the one I have there that's like really well done. But he didn't like it because he himself is a high-end person who wants a resort, who has an experience. So he ended up buying for the same return that he had before in a resort community. So sometimes preferences makes a play too, depending on how they're going to use it and what their goals are. even if they want to return, sometimes they'll start stepping back if they know they can get that nicer property that makes them feel better. And then you still have those other investors who they like, I want to, I want a very specific return. I want this and I want this. And they will give up their resort, or they will give up something else to have a little more cash flow. So sometimes there's a dance there too, and it's very specific to the client.
Love it. How should people be picking a short-term property manager? I'll start with you, Riley. We'll go back to this side and we'll go all the way down. What do you tell people? What do you advise a person should be looking for?
Oh, in a property manager?
Yeah.
I
Like if
would
they're trying to
just-
pick one of you or someone else. What should they be looking for?
I would just say communication is probably the biggest thing. I mean, at the end of the day, if you communicate well, that's probably the most important thing people look for. Obviously, you got to do all the standard things like, hey, you are doing dynamic pricing, you are listing on multiple OTAs. I believe that every property manager should have their own booking site because that's a great way to get off OTAs and increase their owners' revenues. Airbnb's taking 20%, VRBO's taking 13%, Booking.com's taking 18%. How can we get that rather than just, hey, how do we increase our prices by 20%? How do we just get them to book with us for the same price they'd book on Airbnb and make an extra 20% that way? So that, and then honestly, just, someone who's willing to grind for you. It's not a fun business. It's honestly a miserable business. You get you get it from the owners and the guests. The guests are complaining that something's wrong, and then the owners are complaining that the guests aren't paying enough and they're paying less. It's finding that equal balance, and someone who's able to handle stress is probably the biggest thing because it doesn't end 24/7 like your guys' job. It's 24/7, 7 days a week, and you're working holidays and weekends more than you are during the weekdays.
Love it. JB, you want to add to that?
Yeah, communication is key for sure. But after that, what I love about this industry, if I was looking for a property manager, pretty simple, right? We can't hide behind our ratings and reviews. It's public, right? So just send over, like if someone's asking about our portfolio, we just send over our portfolio. They can analyze everything, look at our reviews, our ratings. There's a lot of PM companies that their average score is like 4.5, 4.6. Everybody up here is running circles around them, right? So the customer service, hospitality industry, the great thing about this industry is we're reviewed and rated.
I did that, Michelle. You want to just keep? Let's
Yeah,
just
and
go on
I'm going to say the same thing too, because I've talked to a lot of people, and then they're like, "Oh, this person's going to do it cheaper," or even management companies that are like their online presence is really well done. If you actually go look at their listings, it's like a 4.4 and a 4.5, and I'm like, what the heck? That is very, very bad in Airbnb world. Like anything below like a 4.8 is bad. I mean, a 4.7 sometimes you're going to get there, but a 4.8 and below that is bad. Like it's not.
You got to try hard.
Yeah, like you gotta be like really bad to get your reviews that low. So, but not everyone knows that. But I would say like the biggest thing for sure. I mean, if we had, like we were talking earlier, and all of us can speak the same language, we all kind of do the same stuff. There's a lot of property management companies out there that they don't, or they're older school, or there's even horror stories. I've had so many horror stories. But like for example, you don't want a property management company that's going to do a fixed price. Like sometimes I go see stuff and it's like they give you like their numbers from the previous year or something, and it's like the house is 175 in May and then 185 in October. You're going to lose so much money if you're not using dynamic pricing, which is a paid software that we pay for and changes the price every single day, just like a hotel. And it's like the biggest game changer for maximizing revenue. And I don't mean that on a small scale. It's huge. Like it can actually double some things. Like for example, in COVID, if you didn't catch that there's a COVID premium, you missed out on probably 25-30% of money for a year. So those things do it for you automatically. It raises prices if it needs to encourage bookings. If they're still not bookings, the days are coming due. Basically, they're coming soon. So there's a lot of customizations, and it really makes a huge difference. And the other thing I would just say is organization and being very on top of things. The industry itself out there is very glamorous, but the day-to-day is pretty intense. Like I got out of sales to get out of an intense job, and I found a different intense 24/7 job. So it's just very different. You need to have somebody who has systems in place, because especially as a management company grows, the systems are 100% necessary. So you need to see the good reviews, and you need to have the dynamic pricing.
I'm going to throw a curveball here.
Sure.
Brandt has a different perspective, I think, on some of this. What do you advise your clients when it comes to whether or not they should work with a manager, when they should, when they shouldn't, that kind of thing?
Would you rather make 15% of $30,000 or $100,000 and have to pay 20%, right? So I think the important message there is that some property managers are terrible at managing these properties. The gross revenue is really bad, right? And on the flip side of that, you'll see numbers in actual like projections, but also the past rental history for exact comparable properties. Because generally out here we're dealing with spec builds that have identical floor plans. That you're going to see that those numbers are significantly outperforming, one to the next. So that's a big one. I would say too that when you ask for the rental history on a property, is it performing below average? That's an easy way to determine whether or not that property manager actually cares at all about that property and how it could potentially be doing. Now, coincidentally, somebody like myself, a real estate agent, I'm going to leverage that. That just became fuel for me to get, if I'm working with a buyer, a better deal on that property, right? Because it's not performing. So I just found a pain point. So you don't want to have your clients work with property managers that don't care about the performance of the property. That's a huge component. But to be able to find good ones, generally they're performing above average. If you go into any properties that they have, that they're under contract, that they're managing, they're usually clean. That's a huge one. Some of these properties are absolutely disgusting. So that's a big one.
Love it. Aidan, do you want to add to this? Give him a mic, Brandt. Sorry, y'all. We usually have 4 people up there.
Yeah, so it's hard to go last because so many great points already, but I can add 2 things. Number 1, would definitely avoid the bigger companies, right? So if you go online, look at Vacasa's stock price, you can see how large property management companies perform. Similar conversation with Evolve. So I definitely wouldn't go with the big box brands. That's number 1. And then number 2, and obviously there's some bias here, but I would recommend looking for property managers that have properties themselves, right? They have skin in the game. They know how to operate their own properties. We started self-managing, right? So we bought a bunch of short-term rentals before we ever managed for someone else, right? So we understood the game. We understood how to make money, how to drive revenue, and then we went and built property management.
Let's talk about trends. What are some of the trends we're seeing? Brandt, we'll go back to you because you're on the sales side. What are some of the trends you're seeing that affect the agents in this room and what they should be selling, what they should be focused on? Where do you see short-term rentals going in the Central Florida markets?
Well, I see the short-term rental market continuing to expand. The cool thing about the short-term rental market here in Orlando is that we're seeing more and more visitors every year. Just in 2022, for example, we had 76 million visitors to the Orlando area. I mean, that was more than New York City, which is absolutely incredible, right? So the opportunity is there. We are seeing more short-term rentals as well, but something I was actually talking to the guy that made Price Labs not too long ago, and he'd mentioned that at one point there was, I want to say, around 60,000 short-term rentals. Immediately after COVID, there was around 30,000 or so. Now we're seeing more as they're coming back in. 2021, 2022 happened.
How are they affecting home prices, though? Like
home prices?
How does the short-term rental market affect what's being sold and what it's being sold for?
I mean, so historically, short-term rentals have sold for more because they're based off of cash flow, right? So interesting thing about short-term rentals is that, with like commercial real estate, for example, it's going to be based entirely off the cash flow, whereas residential is going to be based off of like comparable properties and all of that, the market valuation. But the funny thing about short-term rentals is it's kind of influenced by both. Appraisers don't really see it that way, but that's how investors see it. And so it drives up the value of those properties. They're typically worth a lot more. So that's why my average price point is significantly higher than the average in Orlando.
Performing as short-term rental? How does that factor into the list price in the future? One that's performing well as a short-term, does that factor into the list price, and how?
Yeah, so, well, here, I mean, theming is like where you're going to get the most money, right? Is if a property is fully themed, it's going to be able to usually sell for more than market value, typically. But properties that perform well or that have the potential to perform well generally sell quicker than ones that don't, right? Your 5, 6, 7 bedroom properties that have, and even 8 to 10 that have strong historical data are continuing to rise in price. I mean, we're out here selling houses that are 8 to 10 bedrooms for under $1 million. Show me anywhere else in the country that you can do that, except maybe like the middle of Texas.
I want to ask you guys about other markets that are emerging, but really quickly, I want Suzanne to answer a question for me, if you don't mind. Tell us about the short-term rental market is affecting home sales in the markets or in the place you specialize?
Well, I think that, obviously the market's constantly evolving and changing, and interest rates are affecting things now. So there are some people that are sitting on the sidelines. We're seeing a lot of cash buyers come in. They're wanting a little bit of a better deal than they could have got last year. And I think that even with rental markets, they ebb and flow up and down. So I think being able to understand that and explain that, because, certain months, May and September, are the slower months in Orlando. Other months are higher. So it's not going to be like a long-term rental where it's straight across the board. So you have to get the customer to understand that, look at the bigger picture, and also understands that we're going to have up years and we're going to have down years, and it's going to ebb and flow, but look at the entire picture.
Love it.
Also, there's properties, that I think, like Grant was saying, you can get a property and it's performing, one property is performing much better than another. So I try to look at the properties, and if there's something that my client can do after closing to make them better, I say, listen, you can buy this, we can get a good deal on this, but you really have to drop the money into it after to get it to perform higher, or maybe even just switching rental managers to another company that just is a better company that has more of a footprint and has more of a bandwidth on the other platforms. I think that's super beneficial to the clients.
Love it. Tell them where you specialize in. What area?
Well, we specialize in the Disney corridor. We do a lot in Margaritaville, Reunion, Champions Gate, Windsor West Side. We just did one yesterday. So mostly the Disney corridor around here. I think it's unique in Orlando because we have an area that is positive toward short-term rentals. There's a lot of communities zoned short-term rental in Orlando, as opposed to other areas where I have, people that I speak to that are frustrated. They bought one and now the laws are changing. The county's giving them a hard time, all that stuff. So if you buy a property in a community that's zoned short-term rental, they're not going to change that. So I think it's a lot safer. I think it really comes down to how good your property manager is. I've heard horror stories, so I won't get into that, but you want a property manager that has your interests aligned with you. Somebody who makes money when you make money. And also I find communication is key. You want somebody who's going to maintain the property properly and take care of it, and pay attention to maintenance issues and items and stuff like that, because those are the type of things that will get you the bad reviews. If things aren't working, or if things are broken, or if it's not clean when they show up. So those are very, very important to your revenue, your top line, your bottom line, and all that.
Love it. So what I'd like to hear from you guys is emerging markets. Where else are you buying? And then also, because most of these people are in Central Florida, what parts of Central Florida are emerging, growing, or trending? And be this, Mike. We can start with you. So emerging markets, like where are you guys focused on now, and emerging trends, let's call them, in the Central Florida market.
Yeah, emerging markets is interesting, right? Because I generally recommend shying away from markets without any data. We'll see a lot of people are like, hey, I'm going to go and buy a short-term rental in Ocala or some market that, we haven't heard of. There's really no history of rental data. We don't know how it's going to perform. So what we like to do is look for markets that have really strong travel demand. There's a reason why the Smoky Mountains is attractive. Similar conversation with Disney, Scottsdale, so the markets that we're investing in are very saturated, quote unquote. But what we're doing is going into the markets that are performing, have high travel demand, and then figuring out what product works. But if I was to go and try to find a new market that would make sense from a financial perspective, first we're going to start with regulations, right? I think a lot of people are like, hey, I think this area would be a great short-term rental, not even considering the fact that it could be illegal, right? So we want to enter a market that has ideally lodging taxes, right? We want the government on our side. We want to go into a market that not only has established regulations, but there's no changes in the near future, right? So it's been around for years. A market like Disney been around for 50, 60, 70 years. The places like New York City, places like Dallas, right? We're starting to see the city go against short-term rentals. It's part of the argument against affordable housing. And so from an emerging market standpoint, you want to start with regulations. Then we want to look at price to revenue ratios, right? So if you want to compare different markets across the country, I want to know, number one, what's the average price of a home, right? So if I want a 4-bedroom home, how much is it going to cost me? And then how much revenue will it do? The easiest way to compare a market is figuring out price to revenue, right? So if I'm talking to Brandt and we're trying to talk about which markets are more attractive, it's really going to come down to the ratio of, you know, how much I'm going to pay and then how much year one revenue it'll do.
Love it. Anyone else want to add to that? I can go with more questions, but any of you guys?
No, I think Aidan really hit it on the head as far as, you know, the ironic thing about emerging markets is that probably most of us would tell you to stay away from them. You want to have a proven track record where you're not going to have to deal with county regulations changing. I mean, it's a real estate investment, of course. It's also the hospitality business, right? But you don't want to lose out on that opportunity to do short-term rentals, and then it doesn't cash flow as long-term. So, yeah, I would say stay away from them.
Left button. Left button until it turns green.
Well, it working? All right,
Yeah,
there we
good.
go. One thing that we've done a lot of study on is the worst performing markets right now are major cities. So trying to get away from major cities and then within 30 minutes of an airport is 30 to 60 minutes within an airport that has a travel destination. It doesn't even have to be travel destination specific to that. So like Brevard County, our biggest industry like leader is a cruise terminal. So that's more people go in and out of Port Canaveral on cruise ships than anywhere else in the entire world. So trying to find, what is bringing someone there, even if they're not there just to stay there, but what's major things near there and convenient to it. So it has to have a major airport within 30 to 60 minutes. And then, why, as they kind of said, but I would highly recommend staying away from major cities.
Love it. Let's talk about, there's two types of clients really. There's like investors that want to use it, that Michelle kind of hinted towards, and then there's just straight up investors that I think JB talked a bit about and Riley talked a bit about for sure. What do you think these two clients are actually looking for when it comes to their return? What matters most to them, and how do you determine which type they are? Michelle, I'll start with you because you seem ready to answer it.
Well, you can tell very quickly by the questions they ask. Basically, talking to an investor, someone who's looking for a nice space to go, they're going to ask you about their return, how much cash flow they're going to get. I try not to, and this is the same thing like when you guys are like asking them about their goals, it's kind of the same way I have the conversations with them. I try not to put words in their mouth. I don't ask them if they're asking for dollars. I don't ask if they're asking for a percentage. Some people talk in dollars, some people talk in percentages, some people talk in both. If you don't know what that means, you don't need to. Just know your client wants that, and that's what we're going to work for, and then your vendor can help fill in the gaps with that. But usually if they're talking about, if they can figure out like the difference between, or the relationship between dollars and a percentage, they're probably going to be a really savvy person. Or if they're just looking for.
What are you asking? Let's ask that. Like, give us an idea of the types of questions
I
you
ask them what their goals are. Is there a certain number they're trying to reach, or what? And then they're going to start. Then they'll start talking, and then you'll figure out what their intentions are. And then they'll say, "Oh, I want, 8% return." I'm like, okay, that's pretty reasonable. We can definitely do that. Do you guys intend to use it? Because if they use it, then and they need a 3-bedroom for the size of their family, it's just going to steer them into different directions. And if they're going to use it, they might have a preference over the Disney market, over the beach market. So you need to know those, because then you can basically fit them in a box of area, type of property, their price point, and then your search criteria becomes smaller.
Brandt, what are you asking?
So anytime, a lot of times when they'll ask me questions, I'll rephrase it and just kind of send it back to them as a question, because I'm actually waiting for them to give me the answer that they probably already come up with. For example, they say, like if they're asking like, Brandt, should I buy a 5-bedroom townhouse or a 7-bedroom single family unit? And I'll say, which one would you use? Which one do you prefer? Right? And the reason I'm asking that question is because they're going to tell me whether or not they care about the cash flow or they're going to use it for their family. And that is a huge component to how that entire relationship and that conversation, that transaction is going to go, right? And one thing to remember is that we use emotion to make decisions and we justify it with logic. And so that's very important to know when you're talking about short-term rentals. They're vacation homes, and a lot of times they're going to be used first and foremost for their family, but they're going to position that conversation around cash flow because they don't want to feel like they're making a bad investment, right? But a real estate investor versus buying, a vacation home, one feels like you're not making a good financial decision. So they'll say, I'm buying an investment. So, but you have to get to the root of that. It's really important to understand.
Just a quick show of hands. Anyone in this room ever sold timeshares before? Couple of them here. Anywhere? Just figured I'd ask because I'm guessing this is kind of up their alley. I want to ask the two of you, what percentage of the investors you work with are straight up investors, and what percentage do you believe are people that want a vacation here or have ulterior motives to just numbers? Brandt and then Michelle.
I would say that the vast majority are choosing Orlando because they're planning to use it themselves, but they care about cash flow to some degree, right? Now, to what degree might just be, to Michelle's point, they just want to break even. They don't really care. They're actually just being honest with you. Other ones will tell you, hey, I'd love to turn this into an investment property. I'm probably going to use it for myself, though. Like that, I'd say, is 80% of the conversation.
80% of the people or 80% of the combo?
80% of the people would say that they're also planning to use it themselves.
Understood. Michelle?
So when I started getting off into short-term rentals, I was actually a realtor. So at the time, it was 100% of the people looking for a very high return. So all of it was 100%. And I worked a lot with investors. So that was kind of my thing. So all of them were looking for a return. But now that I'm a property manager and I'm not having like those, I'm not necessarily like seeking out people for like investments or anything like that, and they're coming to me, I would probably say 25% of them are looking for like a strong cash flow. Most of the time, they're just looking for a nice place and to have an investment. Not necessarily a lot of background on the savviness.
Understood. And then JB and Aidan, you guys teach people that want to manage them, correct? You have some training and whatnot for people that...
Yeah, so like one thing whenever I have conversations with those two investors, right? One that wants to use the place and one that wants the highest return, I always try to plant the seed that, let's say we take two scenarios, right? Let's say the investor wants to, stay at the property, they want to utilize it with their family and make memories, right? Great, love that perspective. We're going to try to accomplish that. But if they're spending $500,000 and it's going to gross $50,000 in revenue, that's not that great of a return, right? What if they could spend $500,000 and get $100,000 in revenue, but it's not the property that they get to, utilize? That extra $50,000 they can utilize to travel wherever they want, right? So I usually try to plant that seed, and oftentimes they're pretty, receptive to that idea.
All right. Anyone else want to add on that one, or you want to go to the next question? Riley, what person? I mean, you are the investor, right? Are you also working with some people that are investors though, when you're managing?
Yeah, so I work with both, to be honest. I would say it's 50-50. I'm going to be honest. A lot of time, I'm very hesitant when it's not an investor. And the reason why is if it's someone's second home and they're dependent on that income, or it's, hey, this used to be my home, I'm moving somewhere else, and I want, and I'm going to be honest, the beach market's really hard. Prices are going really up, and returns, as he just mentioned, if you're the goal should be 20% of your purchase price is what you should revenue every year if you want to at least just make some money. But a lot of people say, oh, I really want to keep this, and then they start barely breaking even or they're losing money, which I tell them is going to happen, and they say they're okay with it, but then when money's actually coming out of their account, they're not okay with it. I try to stay clear of that, and I try to really align, hey, what are your goals? And I really try to put everything, and I put it in writing. You are going to lose money on this property if you do this. And if you stay on it 4 weeks a year in prime season, you're really going to lose money. And making sure they understand it, they embrace it, and then when they experience it, they don't embrace it, and they don't like it. So I try to avoid a lot of those clients just because I don't want it to be an emotional thing. I want it to be a very business relationship aspect of it. I value your property, I value your investment, but it should be something that, because look, you guys don't want to ruin a relationship with one of your clients, right? You sell them a property they lose money on. Are they going to go back to you for another investment? No. Are they going to be mad when they're losing money and they can't really afford the mortgage? And what happens if things do slow down, which it looks like they are a little bit? Well, you know what? Hey, like, you want to build a good relationship, and you don't ever want to sell a property if they're really, even if they say, hey, I want to break even, they never want to break even. They always want to make money, right?
Amen.
Like, it's the truth.
That kind of leads us. I think really Brandt and Michelle probably most on this. How do you guys as agents mitigate risk? I know, Michelle, you're not really active as an agent as much, but you know the answer to this question. If agents can't pitch investments and they can't sell, avoid having the wrong conversations or saying the wrong thing. I'll start with you, Brandt.
Well, I think you can go back to historical data and then just point out, things were obviously better in 2021 than they are now, and probably ever will be, maybe. But you can say, hey, these properties typically perform within this range historically, right? That's how that property has performed. That's just stating a fact. You're certainly not pointing out that it's going to do that in the future. And then you can preface it by saying, but I'm going to help you get in touch with my top recommended property managers. They're going to help you, walk you through the numbers and give you an idea of what those projections look like. So it becomes a little bit easier once you can pass that off to your property managers.
Love it. Michelle, anything to add to that?
I would say it's helpful too to talk to them in averages, because like our seasonality is so intense, and you just want to set those expectations up front about like the technical stuff, and that's part of like the property management side more than like the selling side. But that helps a lot in just setting expectations. Like I literally tell them, some months are going to be so good, you're going to call me and be like, wow, Michelle, you're freaking amazing, I want more. And then some months you're going to be barely, like, we're going to be breaking even just because of the seasonality of the area. So sometimes you just have to set those expectations of what to expect, because if you have, like, we have some months where it's like amazing month, and then it just drops off the map. And if they're still expecting an amazing month and they spent that, you're going to start having hardship. So always talk in averages and just kind of emphasize that there's a lot of seasonality in the business and that you have to stand out in the competition too.
Love it. How many of you guys learned something so far? Make some noise. All right, real quick, I'm going to ask one more panel of panelists, but take a look at the screen right now. And actually, you know what? I'm going to fix this in a sec. But you can actually scan that QR code right now. That works. MasterclassCFL probably is not forwarded yet. But if you want to scan that QR code, we have almost 100 people signed up for October already. So you're going to want to grab a spot now. We are doing our third year in a row of hosting a women's panel. So wear your pink. It's a pink out session. All the money goes to help the Gina McReynolds Foundation, which helps local women battling breast cancer. But we have 4, and we will have 5 of the top 25 women in Central Florida real estate. And when I say top 25 women, I really mean they're all in the top 30 agents. They're all in the top 30 in Central Florida. They're all badasses. So we got Fernanda Negromonte sold $50 million last year. Kristen Green Vogt sold $40 million last year. Melissa Rodriguez sold $40 million last year in all land. And Lindsay K. Boss sold another $40 million last year. So everyone on the panel sold 40, 50 million. We got one more person to add, but I cover them up with the QR code for now. But you're going to want to register your spot while you can, and make sure to wear pink. This room should be like all pink. The following month, we figured, hey, we've done 3 years of women's panels. What about the dudes? So we're having a men's panel. That's why they all got these mustaches. That's for Movember. Sorry, this keeps changing. But basically, we have Yusuf Squires, Harif Azera, Brian Heiser, and Brandon Ramirez. They all sold $35 to $50 million last year, and they're all under the age of 40 and producing in the top, not 40 people that are young or 40 men. They're all producing in the top 40 Central Florida agents, period, out of all 5 counties in the area. So these people all rocked it last year. All the money we raised is going to the Movember Foundation. That's why it's a Movember edition, and they help support men's mental health, testicular, and prostate cancer. They do studies. They fund all sorts of research and whatnot for it. You're going to want to come wear your blue. So I'll say that one more time. Grab your spot, scan these QR codes for the women's panel in October. Grab it while you can. And the men's panel in Movember. And then that will actually wrap up our year here at Masterclass CFL here at the Enzian Theater. How many of you guys like it here at the Enzian Theater? Make some noise for them. I will tell you, it is a lot better than Harry Buffalo. That's for sure. So anyway, I want to go around the room, get 1 or 2 takeaways from you guys in here. Someone's getting a free book for it. And then I'm going to ask the panelists just one more question. So who has a takeaway you got from today you want to share with the group? Who got one? Yeah, right here. D, what'd you get out of today? All right. So he said, just to make sure everyone heard him, there were 5 communities that Brandt said. Was it Brandt that said it? Or JB said it? JB said there were 5 communities he focuses on in the greater Orlando area. Do you want to name what they are?
Yeah, so Champions Gate, Windsor at West Side, Windsor Island, and then we're probably split between Solara, Solterra. Windsor Hills, you can still have success just because it has a strong following. It's an older community, but yeah.
All right, let's get one more. Over here. What about Story Lake?
Yeah, Story Lake is probably the #1 performer here in the Orlando area. People just tend to love that community. It has all the amenities that you would expect in the top 5, but the proximity to the parks and how easy it is to get in and out of the parks, they're not hitting as much traffic because of where it's located. It's the #1 performer, at least for us, for sure.
Tammy, you had something to... She said if you want to really rocket this thing, pass the ball to the manager that can actually handle this and let them take the ball across the goal line for you. She said something like that. That's a really good takeaway. Let's get one more. Who's got one more? Somebody else learned something today, right? 2 of you learned? Yep, right here. So there's a question, are most of them cash? But Lily, you got a takeaway? Love it. All right, so my question to ask the panelists, is there anything that you think the people in this room need? Really simple. We'll go all to the left, all to the right. Is there anything you think we should have covered or that the people in this room need to know? I know it's a pretty generic question, but figure we end with it.
Yeah, I would say there's a lot of negative publicity around, short-term rentals, the sky is falling, everything is down. I would say don't let that scare you away from making money. Everyone on the panel is making money. I know a lot of agents doing deals, and so I wouldn't be scared of the current climate. It is more challenging, but definitely don't focus on the headlines only.
More just along the lines of being successful in real estate as an agent, right? Focus on a niche and be the absolute best at it so you can build a brand around it, because it allows you to develop trust and clients will come to you and not having to go to them. You'll already have their business before you ever talk to them. So that one's big. And then also who, not how. Please remember that. That is the reason that I'm up here on this stage and sold the real estate that I did, was because of the people that I have in my life and have built a network around, whether they be property managers, other agents, or just fantastic individuals.
By the way, the book, Who Not How, Dr. Benjamin Hardy, he's actually local, lives in Windermere, if y'all didn't know that. But also Dan Sullivan, you should grab that book. It's a really good one. Yeah. Michelle, what do you want to add?
I'm gonna add some context to what Lily said, because it was a really good point. A lot of people come to me and they're like, "Hey, Michelle, here's 5 properties in Solterra. They're all 5 bedrooms. Which is the best one?" They're literally all the same house. It comes down to the design, having access to a pool, and usually setting expectations that we're gonna have to put some money into it for design if it's not already there. So it's not necessarily like that one over there is gonna perform better than the one 4 doors down, because technically they should all be able to do the same. It's about the interior and getting those appealing photos. And then I just wanted to add just like the technical side of property management, because Brandt talked a lot about property management companies that are like actually performing. And a lot of that, all of that data is really, really available for property managers. So it's just part of what we do to actually get that revenue is we actually compare to the market every single week. Like we look at our listings and we see what the average occupancy is, for example, and compare it to our performance. So part of what that comes down to is like actually having a strategy on the properties. So I just wanted to throw that out there for like some context too.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'm going to throw a quick curveball. So, Brandt, I have a question for you. When did you start, when did you get your license here in Orlando?
It's been almost exactly 2 years.
Okay, 2 years. And you sold how much in real estate?
just over $40 million.
I wonder how many realtors that started 2 years ago that has had more success than you.
I would love to meet them.
And especially not working with buyers.
Not to take anything
extra
away
detail.
from Brandt, right? He works hard. He's very intelligent, very meticulous, but he has something that other realtors don't have to offer, right? He has a superpower in his back pocket, especially being here in Disney. We're the mecca of vacation rentals. If you don't understand that language, I don't understand.
Yeah.
So, I mean, props to you, man. And I would encourage everyone to really understand the terminology behind short-term rentals if you're going to be competitive in this market.
I've always felt like if you're going to live here and the majority of the money that flows through the city comes from tourism, there's not a really good reason not to get paid off of it in some capacity. Just a thought there. Riley.
I would just like to say, like, as things are getting harder, as like the lenders have mentioned that rates are going up, I'm sure you guys have experienced insurances have like doubled and the requirements have doubled. How do we find creative ways as agents to make sales, right? Hey, can we assume this 3% loan? Hey, can we get an owner financing on a deal? Hey, is there a non-performing property where one person bought a bad property like Michelle was mentioning and Brent mentioned earlier where, hey, they're doing a really terrible job, and going in there and working out a deal with them to take advantage of that. Going into AirDNA and finding out, hey, these properties are performing terrible. Hey, let's go make a lowball offer because they might just want to get out of the property. Hey, how do we do creative things that make us unique for our clients? How do we do things that get us to the closing line on those deals? Because look, it's not a good environment right now. Interest rates are going up, taxes are going up, insurance is skyrocketing. To fix anything is gone up 2-3 times in the past 30 years in maintenance. So how do we stand out? How do we make a difference? It's not just being easy anymore. This is going to be the hardest time in real estate in a really long time. How do we make a difference? Interest rates aren't coming down. Everyone says they are, but they're lying to you. All right? They're not. They're not. All right? They're just not. So how do we make a difference and going above and beyond for our client? How do we get that owner financing deal at 5% for 2 years as a balloon so that if rates do come down in 2 years, hey, it got us there and we were able to maximize revenue. So, I mean, that's one thing that we should really do and should really focus on is, hey, how do we be the best agent possible, not the stereotypical agent?
Love it. So let's give all our panelists a giant round of applause. I'm going to remind you one more time so you can follow them. We got Riley's with Beachside VR. JB and Aidan are Blue Gems. Michelle is Peak Paradise Vacation Management. Brandt is an agent with Real. And you can reach out to any of them, find them on social media, and I'm sure they'll all be more than happy to answer your question. We also have Suzanne DeCobo that jumped in, and TJ Cosgrove also helped us a little bit. So one more time, giant round of applause for the panelists. You're going to want to pull your phones out and make sure you scan those QR codes and sign up for next month. In a second, I'll fix it so that you can go to MasterclassCFL.com in about a minute, and that'll take you to next month's session. All right, that's it. Oh, one more person to give a giant shout out and thank you to. Can we give a round of applause to Dave Stewart and his team with DStewartProductions for doing all the video replay, the live stream. Everybody can find this in the next few days, probably by Monday, on our YouTube page. If you go to Orlando Real Producer, you can watch the entire thing from 4 cameras, edited on the fly. But panelists, you're going to want to jump up and take a look at Dave. Let's just get a photo, and then everyone else, you're good to go. If you guys want to have the best burger in town, though, stick around. Join us in the Eden Bar. And this place is completely nonprofit. So the more we can spend here, the more this independent theater stays open. So thank you, guys. Thank you to Enzian. Thank you to everyone that spoke. And everyone, real quick, let's get a photo with Dave. Jump on up, come together, and look at that guy right there.